Do you remember in a 15-year-old ninth grader a few weeks later to the Farrar Cottage in Bourne overnight to look at fire trucks?
No, I do not.
Do you ever remember taking any boys in 1978 to look at fire trucks up at the Bourne Cottage?
No, sir, because there were no fire trucks there.
Okay. Do you deny that it occurred, that you ever took any 15-year-old boys up to the Farrar Cottage in Bourne, Massachusetts in 1978 and before?
On a rare occasion, either Mr. and Mrs. Farrar might say to me, if you wish to bring someone with you, you may do so. But by a large measure, they were young adults, they were not children.
What do you consider a young adult, sir?
I would say anybody around 18 or 20.
Okay. So, as I understand what your testimony is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you did take people that you considered young adults up to the Farrar Cottage on the Cape overnight.
On a rare occasion.
Okay. And how many times were these rare occasions taking place where you took 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds or young adults, whatever you'd like to call them, up to the Farrar Cottage on the Cape overnight?
Mr. Ridden, let me state for the sake of the record, please, that the cottage was not very large. And so therefore there wasn't room to bring a lot of people. And sometimes they had other family members there. So it was a rare occasion that anybody would go with me.
Well, I'm not asking whether or not you brought a party. I'm asking you, how many times did you bring anyone that you characterize as a young male or a young adult, whatever you want to call, any other individual who was not a relative of yours, to the cottage on the Cape owned by the Farrars and spent the night there?
In
Rarely.
1978 or before.
In 1978, in 1977, in 1976, in 1975, in 1974.
Rarely.
All of those years. Let's take from 19, wait a minute, I'll tell you what, I have a better way to approach this. I'll withdraw the question. Mr. Sitars is concerned. Let's start in 1971 through 1978. Or not, yeah, 71 through 78. From the time you were at Christ the King Church in 71, right through 78 when you were at St. Robert Bellarmine's Church. How many times would you estimate you took a male who is not a relative of yours, who you characterize as a young adult, to the cottage owned by the Farrar family on the Cape overnight?
Rarely.
What's rarely? How many times? If you estimate.
How many years are you speaking of?
I'm talking about 6 years, from 1971 to 7 years, 1971 to 78.
6, 8 times.
Okay. Can you remember the names of any of the so-called young adults that you took up there 7 or 8 times?
No, sir.
None of them.
No.
Now, these are people you spent the night up there with, right?
Perhaps, if you're saying so.
You don't remember the name of any of them?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Well, let's give you a moment to think.
No.
You sure you can't
No,
remember the names of any of
I
them?
do not.
You need any time to think about that?
No, sir.
Do you remember how old each one of these 7 or 8 people were that you took up there?
No, sir. Except to say one thing, that I'm sure they were young adults and not children.
Okay, and a young adult is, again,
To me, 18 or over.
18 or over. Were these young adults that you took up there to the cottage in Bourne, Mass? Were they generally speaking from while you were at St. Robert Bellarmine, from the Windsor Locks community?
Not necessarily. I don't remember for sure, but they might not have been.
How did you come to know these young adults that you took to the cottage on the Cape?
Well, there was one who was a good friend of mine through police connection. He was probably he was a college man. He went once or twice, and I'm trying to think of his name, but it won't come to me. I've lost connection with him now for 25 or 30 years, but he would go occasionally.
Any others you can think of besides the
That's-
college man?
It's the only one that stands out in my mind.
Okay. Do you remember, sir, I'll withdraw that and ask you this, sir. Do you deny, sir, that when you were in Massachusetts at the Farrar Cottage on the Cape, you bought liquor for a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old, gave it to him, had him drink it, got him drunk, and spent the night alone with him at the Farrar Cottage?
Absolutely
Objection.
not.